All right, and welcome to another episode. I'm Wyatt. This is my co-host Darren, and today we're joined by a special guest, Garrett, the MAGA supporter. So, this is going to be a very interesting episode so far, where we dive into the mind of the average Trump voter. So, Garrett, starting off with you, what would you say your overall opinion of the Trump administration is so far? We're almost at 100 days, so it should be fun. And then, how do you evaluate that? Like, what do you like? What do you not like from what you've seen so far?
Well, I mean, I guess first off, I think I should take offense at MAGA supporter and average, but we'll just roll on with it. Um, yeah, so Trump's first 100 days, and just for your audience, like I voted for Trump twice. I've been a staunch supporter ever since 2016. But his first 100 days in this term, I'm really dissatisfied. I feel like I'm not getting what I voted for, frankly.
Okay,
Oh,
well, I in that case, I would say I broadly agree with that. What particular points are you dissatisfied with?
Well, if y'all don't mind, we'll take it one at a time so I can kind of follow my notes here. I did a little bit of prep work, not a whole lot. And I will say, so by all means, correct me if I've got wrong information. I listen to like maybe one political podcast a day now while I'm taking care of my kids. So if my information is either out of date or whatever, I do apologize.
Oh
oh
no,
no,
you're
you're all
fine.
good.
I
Yeah.
I think one political podcast today, you probably have a pretty good handle on
Probably
things.
beat half the voting population, honestly.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's neither here nor there. But so I guess the first thing I'll give Trump the win first. I am pretty satisfied with what he's doing on immigration. So his number of deportees, from what I understand, isn't the highest. I think Barack Obama actually had the highest number of deportations across two terms. And it is only the first 100 days of this real staunch immigration policy. Uh, but aside from just the deportations, he's also like illegal border crossings are down to like nil. Like it's almost it's not absolute zero, obviously, but it's really close as far as illegal crossings go. And that's one area I really think he succeeded. And I do feel like he deserves the props. Like he came in, he didn't need an act of Congress like Joe Biden told us for 3 years. He came in and he shut it down. And he did that by enabling our officers and just, I mean, basically cutting the bureaucratic strings off them.
Oh yeah, no disagreement here. Yeah, he was completely vindicated.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think he just kind of proved that it was really a matter of will, not really a matter of like constraint that was going on, right? I don't I no debate for me there. I mean, that's it's pretty clear. I mean, we went from like 140,000 a month to like 7,000, which is yep, basically nothing, right? So,
oh yeah.
Right. And it's these are also like caught. So I'm assuming, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that these people caught illegally crossing are being turned back. And we don't know the number of gotaways just because that's an unknown variable in any administration because you don't know what you don't know. Uh,
right.
but yeah, I'm overall very pleased with his immigration policy, and just the way that that's been handled. I can't is it I can't remember when I first saw his like secretary of like is it Homeland Security who's in charge?
Oh, Christy,
Uh,
no. Yeah.
yeah, well, whoever it's that mean guy.
Oh,
Like
Tom
he
Oh,
Homan.
Tom
Tom Homan.
Homan.
Tom,
I
yeah, it's
gotcha.
Tom Homan that I'm talking about. Thank you. But when I first saw him being like this is my nominee, and like he came on, it was like a Fox News interview, I think. We're gonna put the hammer down, and I was like, yes, like I'm here for it. I love this guy. He seems like a no nonsense. I'm gonna get the job done. I'm on board with the administration. Like let me go to work, and I really approve of that. I'm glad that he got passed. Which I don't know. There was some kerfuffle with his cabinet picks, but not really anything substantial. At least nothing that comes to mind. I guess to detract from that, so we have had a couple of cases. So there's the real popular one now. That guy, um, he had like some special needs daughters.
Oh,
Uh,
Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
yeah, so that's the hot button issue for like the past 2 weeks, and everybody's kind of at least everybody on one side of the aisle has been up in arms about it. Uh, Frankly, I don't disagree with the deportation. I am a little concerned that some what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Like his rights to a
Due
trial were
process.
infringed. Yeah, his due process was violated. That does concern me a little bit, and I also just don't buy that the administration has no swing with the El Salvadorian president to bring him back and allow him due process. I mean, keep him in jail. That's fine. He seems like he's got a myriad of reasons why he should at least be in jail. Um, but you need to do these things the right way because otherwise you get something like this that comes up and it takes 3 weeks of momentum away from you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I would say I broadly agree, although I think I might be even more of a hard line on this one. I'm kind of, in some ways, I kind of am okay with, flouting due process because it might have like a deterrent effect on the illegal immigrants. But I can see both ways. I could be swayed either way.
Yeah, and I mean, this won't come as a shock to the both of you. But I am super not for suspending or really ignoring due process. um, but like I'm totally fine if this dude's a gang member, like committing horrible crimes, like that's fine. But like you also got to prove it. I don't feel like I'm asking for too much there, to be honest with you. Um, but I mean, overall, I would say his immigration stuff is kind of like freaking me out because, like, mass deportations aren't happening. So, like you said, like the number of deportations per day, it's basically less than even Obama had. But it's the crossings that are down. So is that enough, or does it not go far enough? Do you think?
So in my opinion, it's not far enough, but it is just his first 100 days. So, like I said, he came in and had such a crackdown on illegal crossings that I'm willing to, kind of take it on faith that those numbers will improve as his administration moves forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out, right? Because they're fixing to have this budget fight, right, over 2025, 2026, where I mean, we'll be able to tell based off of the funding that ICE is going to get. Because that's the thing, like to do the amount of deportations that would be necessary, from y'all's perspective, it's going to require just more manpower. I mean, there's no way around it, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. The budget, I don't know. The budget is one big beautiful bill. I've heard a lot about it, and frankly, it all goes in one ear and out the other because politicians talking bullshit numbers. It just it's not my forte. I know some of the hot topics, but we can save that for the next.
gotcha. And the due process, the
Yeah,
the
we can
the
save the budget stuff for when it gets real,
yeah,
when it's
because
more in
it's
the news.
it's too speculative right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's questions that it's even going to pass the House. Like, there's enough like purple state Republicans that are like, we cannot allow any cuts to Medicare. So if you even hint at it, we're going to vote no.
Right.
And I mean, that's the downside of winning such a narrow majority like you did. But
I don't know what you're talking
anyway,
about. He has a mandate, Garrett. Um, no. So
I,
the
I,
two. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do believe Trump has a mandate. I think he's the first president or
Oh,
the first
come on.
Republican president. He's the first Republican president in, I don't know, my voting life, my like political life to actually win the popular vote. And I think like people were really upset with Biden and the way his administration ran things. I think he's got a man now that mandate may not go as far as he in his head thinks it goes. Um, but I do think he does have a mandate from the people strictly on, things like the economy and things like immigration. I don't know how much foreign policy actually comes into what Americans vote on. People get upset about like seeing the numbers that go to like foreign aid. But other than
Right.
that, I don't think most people vote for president on foreign policy. But
So just really quick, and then we can side shuffle to your next one if you want. But the due process being ignored on a lot of this stuff doesn't bother you at all. That's not like or is it like a red flag or what?
so it does bother me. It really the due process for different classes of people, and I say class as in like illegal immigrant or anyone labeled as a terrorist. Like a violation of due process rights is not new, and it's bothered me really as I've matured in age. So like the easy thing to say is like, look, these guys are criminals. They don't deserve their due process. And then you think about it, and it's like, look, your right to due process mentioned in the Constitution, and really every right you have as an individual in the Constitution, to me, that is a God-given right. We just happen to live in a country that acknowledges it. And to say that, I mean, whether you're an illegal immigrant or a terrorist or, whoever or what have you, you still have those God-given rights, and we should still acknowledge them for you. And that, like I said, that goes for everybody. Like the torture that was going on in Guantanamo Bay. Like, no, we shouldn't be doing that. Like, and it's unfortunate that it's happened at all. Uh, but I guess to surmise, it is a red flag for me. This particular man maybe isn't the hill that I would die on, but it's like, hang on, he had a court order like it was a court order to stay in the United States. You mistakenly, by your own admission, mistakenly put him on the deportation plane, and then now you're just obstructing to me. Like you totally have the ability in my mind to go to the El Salvadorian president and say, "Hey, I need this guy back." And really, the only complication I can see is it's an El Salvadorian in El Salvador, and extradition isn't a guarantee, but you have some political sway here. It'd just be an extradition.
Well, not even
You
that. I
know?
mean, we're paying them something like $6 million to keep that guy there. I mean, if they wanted to do it, the fact is that they could. I think that is like the moral of what you're saying, and I think that's right.
Yeah, I do. I firmly believe that if the Trump administration really wanted to get him back, that's totally within their purview. Now, I think the Democrats who have like gone down there, I don't know. I saw some screenshots that were like them like dining at like a 4 or 5 star restaurant that I'm sure is total horse crap. Um, I don't know that that's how far I would go, but I would definitely be like, hey, look, this guy had a court order to stay here. I understand he's committed crimes. At least coming here illegally is a crime, and he's suspected of committing various other crimes, but he has a God-given right to due process, and we, as a country who should be God-fearing, need to acknowledge that and enforce it.
Well,
Interesting.
okay, that's pretty reasonable. What other things would you disagree with that have been going on thus far, or any more things you do like, or
Uh, I mean, to
especially
be
how about
honest,
oh my bad,
good.
how about like foreign affairs? What's happening with Israel, Gaza, or even like Iran? What are your thoughts about how it's been treated thus far?
Um, well, so I was going to say, like, this is the only area that I think Trump is winning right now is immigration. Going on to foreign policy, I'm going to try to keep the cussing down, but it is a total shit show. The Trump administration has just crapped the bed all over every foreign policy engagement that they have come in and tried to resolve in the first 100 days. And it would be one thing to me if you came in and you were like, you seemed, I don't want to say competent, but you seemed like you were having you drew a line in the sand, you were going to have a backbone, you were going to stand by it, and it's just taking longer than you originally thought. That's one thing. But you have come in and drawn a line, then backpedaled, then done this, then done that, then done, nobody on the entire globe knows where the US actually stands on these issues at this point, and it's incredibly frustrating to me. I think, well, one issue at a time. I guess we'll start with Israel and Gaza. So it's kind of been quiet for the most part. I mean, so before Trump even got elected, a lot of the conflict was resolved. So they'd already bombed Hezbollah, the crap out of Hezbollah. Gaza is a ruinous heap for, and then what else? Yeah, I guess Yemen, if you want to wrap that into there, or you want to wrap that into the Iran issue. But
Oh
Israel and
yeah,
Gaza was
yeah.
Israel and Gaza was pretty well. It's at the same point that it was when he took office. I'll say that there's been no headway in eliminating any foreign member or any kind of like peace agreement or anything like that. I've heard rumors of a 5 to 7 year peace deal. Yeah, what was I leaving it?
Oh, here, I
Like
got
I
you.
said,
You're talking about how there really hasn't been any meaningful change regarding Gaza. Basically, how there was a brief reprieve, a bit of a ceasefire, but ultimately things went back to the way they were, and the strip is in shambles still.
yeah, I mean, and the strip's going to be in shambles for forever. Like I said, I know they came in and they were trying to do hostage deals. There were some negotiated portions, but it all seems to have just fallen apart. Israel hasn't gotten its bodies back, and Palestine hasn't gotten uh, their terrorists back. I don't know. I can't remember the exact details. But there doesn't seem to be any kind of like peace agreement or actual ceasefire on the table anymore. Um, and the fact that it's quiet may mean that I'm just wrong or that I'm uninformed, because it's definitely not occupying the headlines like it has for the past year and a half. But I just don't see any kind of meaningful um, ceasefire or like staunch agreement, or even what's going to happen to Gaza now. Like all we know is the Gazans are like, you're not going to occupy it, and Israel's like, well, you're not staying there. And then Trump comes in and is like, well, maybe I'll buy it and turn it into Mar-a-Lago on the Mediterranean. And it's like, stop. Like, I'm not even opposed to the idea, but like, you got to approach this with a level of seriousness that it actually deserves.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what would you want him to do?
Well, so like I said, I actually don't totally disagree with like a U.S. occupation of Gaza. The only real concern I have there is like now you're putting U.S. lives at risk. But there are ways. So like his deal, he's got a mineral deal with Ukraine right now, that they've already agreed to. But there's tons of natural gas and oil off the coast of Israel in the Mediterranean. If we could strike up some kind of agreement with Israel, like, hey, occupation or some kind of, like I said, minerals deal with them, like we're doing with Ukraine, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Now, as far as like the U.S. buying Gaza as like a 51st state or whatever it is, I'm not super interested. If anyone could turn it into a lucrative real estate investment, it'd be Donald Trump. But I just I don't really all I want is I want a concrete plan. Like I need something hashed out here,
Right. You're
and really you just
not super picky on the details, right? You just need something.
yeah. I mean, so there are going to be things that I disagree with in any administration, but one thing that I really drives me nuts in almost all of them is if like I need you to come in and be like the adult in the room, like have the decision made, and then not necessarily I don't want to say like enforce American will, but yeah, kind of like look, I want you to be at peace. What do we need to do to get that to get that done? And if both parties are not going to participate, like okay, well I'm going to have to do something more extreme, like buy Gaza and just fill it with oil rigs.
Yeah, well, I do agree that, something more concrete would be better because, Trump's style is he kind of just throws things at the wall and kind of sees what sticks. But like in your fantasy for like what Trump could do, like your ideal scenario, what would happen to the Palestinians, or how would Israel be treated? Going forward, assuming this is like some kind of peace deal, what would be your ideal set of events?
So my ideal outcome for this entire conflict here is Hamas totally decimated. I mean, down to the last man, wiped out, gone. I think they're a bunch of terrorists. Uh, Hezbollah, same thing. So my goal would be any terrorist organization that is actively firing upon Israel. So that I guess would include the Houthis every now and then. But every single one of them needs just to be utterly decimated. Now, the Palestinians themselves, people who aren't active members of Hamas, don't support Hamas, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that like the last numbers out of Gaza and the West Bank, there's only like 20% of Palestinians who don't support Hamas. Like even like strictly on October 7th, they're like 80% of their population thinks it was totally justified. And it's like, and I know there's a bigger story that we're not going to get into right now about, the origins of this conflict and how long they've been fighting. They've been fighting since Old Testament times. Like I I would like to see any remaining Palestinians out of Israel proper. Like you're gonna go to Egypt, you're gonna go to wherever it is you're gonna go, and we're just gonna resolve. Like it's a one state solution in my mind.
So
I'm tired.
you would rather have these people exiled, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So I don't believe in the possibility of a two-state solution. I think the more we keep trying to force this two-state solution down the region's throat, the more hostility there's been. And if we want an end to the hostility, this a one-state solution is where it's at. Now, if you want to argue that, like, okay, we're going to have to give Israel a state somewhere else, we could argue that. The problem is Israel's winning the war right now, and the strong position doesn't give up to the weaker position. So I just, like I said, my final goal is a true one state solution. And
So
in my mind, I think it's better and more likely that that is Israel's one state. And we can send the Palestinian refugees to other Muslim countries in the surrounding area. It's not like there's only one that they can go to. It that's kind of my like ultimate dream goal. And it I can't even say like that would establish peace in the region immediately because it wouldn't.
how would
A
that
lot of these
establish
people.
peace? That would, I mean, like, that would ramp everything up.
So I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
So that what I was gonna say was like they're gonna try to reconquer their land, like just like anybody is going to, but with like a dominant force in defense of your own border, which is much easier to maintain when there are not terrorists on like 15 feet on the other side of this line firing rockets at you. Like I think I think it is the best solution for long term peace, not immediately short term. And you're I mean probably right. It may in fact get even uglier because I know Egypt's been really reluctant to take the Palestinians in, and then what was it, Jordan? Like Jordan's afraid that it'll topple their whole dynasty. Like they'll come in and coup us, like they just did in oh Lord, what's the name of the country? It's not Saudi Arabia, is it? Where they just overthrew like a couple months ago?
Oh, Syria?
Yeah.
Syria, yeah, they just ISIS or some ISIS offshoot came in and overthrew the entire government. Jordan doesn't want that to happen to them. Egypt doesn't want to happen to them. Like that's but you know what? Like it's better you deal with your own people than continue this crap show. Uh
Well, how about I ask this? Uh, there's two things in my mind. One thing, you know, I am receptive to arguments of like the strong may impose their will upon the weak, and that's just kind of, the way of things. So, when Israel subjugates the Palestinians, it might be tragic in one sense, but also that's just kind of life. On the other hand, though, my problem with that is that were it not for American support, I don't think actually Israel would be able to uh, stay in that region. I think Israel would probably be destroyed or collapsed in one way or another because without our support, the people of the region would be able to rise up and force them out. And in terms of peace, honestly, I think the end of Israel would probably bring more peace to that region. In terms of like where all conflict stems from, in that area. I mean, there's at least you, if not a cause with Israel, you can always link something back to Israel. In the last, honestly, like 100 years, but you value Israel, right? So you,
I
why
value
is it that you value Israel over any other state in the Middle East?
I think we share more in common with Israel as Americans than we share with, say, Iran. At least Iran as it is now. You could make an argument, though. I think it was like the 80s that Iran was like pretty liberal for a Muslim country. Um,
Oh,
but I
well,
think
yeah, back when the Shah was running it,
right.
and he was backed by us, and yeah, we had much better relations with them way back when. Uh, I
And
would say though, I mean, in terms of development, the Iranians are very well developed, educate. If it weren't for sanctions, I would say that would probably be a pretty prosperous nation and almost something that I could envision a lot of Westerners being comfortable, you know, visiting, going, being tourists over there.
I
Similar to the UAE and other Gulf states.
I think that's pretty nuts. I mean, so Iran has empirical or Persian Empire ambitions. I think they want to govern basically the entire region. They had Iraq and Afghanistan under their thumb until offshoots come off, and now they're funded by Iran. They're proxy states. Um, that just again, like with the funding of terrorism that they do in the region, and you could argue the definition of terrorism, like are terrorists people who are uprising against Israel? Well, yeah, but they're also like terrorists because they have like they meet the actual definition. I I don't see, I mean, without more liberal reforms in Iran, people from the West being able to go there and comfortably vacation. Uh, I mean,
Well,
just pull out your rainbow flag in downtown Tehran and let's see how long you last, you know?
well,
I
okay, a couple things. I mean, yes, Iran, nominally, they do support our enemies, but Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. But I would argue that were it not for our support of Israel, that these people wouldn't be opposed to us anyways, and that honestly, we could be on a were it not for Israel, we could be on a path to peace with the Iranians, and maybe they would be the regional hegemon because they're so strong relative to the other states in the region. But
so it would be Iran or India.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If you wanted to, I guess the
Well,
South
and
Asia, yeah.
And just really quick, I do think it is funny that like, we're supposed to believe Iran is this massive like empire. They want to like reclaim parts of Iraq and parts of Jordan and stuff, but meanwhile, they haven't moved an inch in their borders in forever. And then you have Israel who has like literally been expanding their borders as much as they can to be, greater Israel, right? So, that's
Right. So that's
like
true.
Israel's the expanding empire here, right?
So I don't think that's necessarily true. So just like the US occupied and then whatever the word is, we took in the Philippines, like they're now a US nation or state. It's some weird word I can't recall at the top of my head, but that's what Iran's doing. So like they're occupying with like and they've left enough kind of ambiguousness between their funding and who is running these countries and who's overthrowing governments in these other countries. They are expanding their empire, just not through like actual military, like shove out the populace and then occupy it. And just the quantity of land and peoples that they're occupying is way larger than anything Israel's doing. But I don't disagree that like I for sure believe that Benjamin Netanyahu and really Israel at large eventually wants to take back the West Bank, maybe as far north as southern Syria and Jordan, and be like a true, I don't know, first temple Israel again.
Are
Uh,
you opposed to a greater Israel where they like take Lebanon, parts of Syria, parts of Jordan? Or are you
I'm not. I think it's silly to fight over land at this point in our history, but people have been doing it forever. They're not going to stop now. And frankly, if you come try to take my land, I would fight you for it. Um, I wouldn't. I would not be. I probably would be. I probably would be against unnecessary expansion. So the issue I have here is like they've been given all the all the reason in the world to now go in and occupy these lands they're basically talking about because Hezbollah set up in their north in all of these lands that they're talking about reconquering. Um, Gosh, is the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank like they're just as big a terrorist supporters as Hamas, and like I said, they'd be given all of the reason to do it, and I would have a problem saying no, you cannot go and occupy these lands that have been repeatedly over the past 30 years occupied by terrorists who are trying to destroy you. And my reasoning is basically, you know, if the cartel started shooting rockets into Texas, we would own Mexico tomorrow. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. Now, if there was no like let's assume by the grace of God there's a peace deal that comes through tomorrow, and there is just no firing on anybody in the Middle East, and then Israel suddenly like, hey, you know what? We're going to occupy the West Bank. We're going to take these lands back. That would be an expansionist power, and that's not something like that's war for no reason in my mind.
Well, yeah, that's what
Um,
this entire conflict has been.
so yes,
I mean, you know,
I don't know. So it's
they just had to bomb through those babies to get to the Hamas terrorists, Garrett. They just had to. They had to do
that's
it.
what happens when you use human shields, man. Like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. Like if
Right.
you're gonna place your terrorist
That's why
bases,
they had to kill 60,000 of them. Right. That's why they had to kill 60,000 of them.
when you're putting your bases underneath schools and hospitals, then when the schools and hospitals get hit, the blood's on your hands, not on Israel's. Like
Right.
that's
Okay.
I mean,
That's
so that's the
interesting.
same thing. So like, have you ever talked to anybody who was in like the first couple invasions of Iraq when we went into Iraq?
No.
Like, have y'all seen American Sniper?
Sure.
So in American Sniper, there's actually a scene where Chris Kyle is posted up on a building and they send out a kid with an RPG. And I mean, this kid is, you know, 6, 7 years old, maybe a little bit older. I don't know how old the actor was, frankly, but it's a child. Send him out with an RPG to go blow up Marines. And I can tell you, and Chris Kyle took the shot. Like that's what you do. Like it's either my men or this kid. And unfortunately, that's how it works. And that's what happens. Like he's Chris Kyle in American Sniper is not the
You
only
know,
person I've heard this from.
Garrett, now this is ridiculous. I can't let this slide. So it's totally different whenever Marines are doing a patrol in Baghdad and there's a bomb that's going to blow up and kill Marines versus launching a fucking Tomahawk missile from 150 miles away on a hospital you know is littered with civilians. Like I don't you can't pretend to tell me you don't know the difference.
I think it's a difference in scale, but not in principle. Like I
How?
really do.
How?
Well, because again, these people are building they're keeping the rockets that they're firing into Israel underneath these hospitals, right? So you can
Well, I don't
either
know
let
about
them keep
right.
the
I
rockets
mean,
and keep.
you said yourself, they've done plenty of bombing, right? They've done plenty of bombing, and they haven't been able to root out Hamas or their armory. So, like, are they really sure
Well, so
that it's under there?
that's another problem too. Is like Hamas is an ununiformed enemy, so they hide. They literally look the same as any other Palestinian. So you cannot, in a lineup of 10, from of Palestinians, pick out who was Hamas and who was not. It's an impossible
So
task.
you have to kill all 10, is what I'm hearing. That's what makes the most sense.
I mean, so if one of them has an RPG, like I guess, like
Right, but none of them. No, no. Remember, they're all the same, and they're all in civilian clothing. So you just have to kill all. I mean, what other option do they
I'm
want us
not
to do?
saying you
Those
have to kill all of them.
monsters. You
So
know what I mean?
so here's the thing:
Kill
if
all of
they're
them
take,
and their preborn daughters. How about that? That's what I'm thinking.
I don't see. It is terrible that children are dying in this, but it's terrible that children die in any war. You know, children died when we invaded Iraq, children died in Korea, children died in Vietnam. This is not a new thing in war,
Well,
right?
definitely not to
This
the
is the
American
this is
side.
the this is the reality of war. So who do you blame? So who do you blame for the dead children in Germany when Europe bombed the crap out of them in World War II? Is it Germany's fault for starting the war? Is it Europe's fault for launching the bombs? Like, it's a tragedy, but it's a reality. And
It's
if you would
definitely the
stop put,
Allies. It's definitely the people who dropped the bomb's fault.
I mean, I guess like
Like,
that's an opinion. I don't understand. So if I swing at you, if or you know what, I pull a gun on you and then hide behind my 2-year-old daughter and just keep shooting at you, knowing that you're not going to shoot because
here's a
my
more
2-year-old daughter is
realistic.
my human shield. Like I,
Here's a more realistic one. All right, we don't have to do a made up one. Okay. Let's say you're on a compound, you're off the grid farming, right? And you and your 2-year-old daughter are running around, and you both go into your house, right? And you're in your room and she's in her room, and then the government decides, well, we know Garrett's in there, so we'll just level the entire thing, right? It's
yeah.
not
So
it's not it's
that's
not as
pretty
if you're using her as a shield, right? It's not
right. That's
quite that
pretty fucking
simple,
terrible.
and
Like
that's what we'll do.
you're living at home.
Well, that's what do you? I don't see the disconnect here.
I mean, that's a good analogy. Um, I mean, it's hard for me to say. It's really not though. So let's. I'm going to use a different. This is a made up analogy, but if like Chicago was taken over by terrorists, but they're still innocent people, would the U.S. government just bomb Chicago, or would they send in the National Guard?
I don't know.
Um.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Now, I do want to move on here because I don't want to spend too much time on this one. But I just have to get your last little bit on what is your position on like war with Iran?
I mean, as necessary.
Would you
Like
say
I
we're
don't
at
want.
that point?
If they keep pursuing a nuclear weapon, I would think so.
Well,
We're yeah, we've got to stop. Like really, global nuclear disarmament would be best, but the countries that already have them aren't going to give them up, especially after what's happening in Ukraine. Um, but yeah, I we cannot let Iran and nobody in the region wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon either. This is not even just a Israel US thing. This is nobody wants them to have a nuclear weapon. And I don't think you can allow that.
well, I'm not certain that Iran actually wants a nuclear weapon. I mean, we've been told by, Netanyahu and many like him that they want a nuclear weapon, but I mean, for years now they've been just weeks away, but they haven't gotten it. And I think honestly, uh, I think the Iranians are pretty trustworthy in terms of not going for the nuclear weapon if they think that peace is on the table. When Trump pulled out of the JCP, JCPOA in his first term,
Is
the
that the
Iranians,
agreement that paid them to not have a nuclear bomb?
yeah, that's what
Well,
that
to
was
be
the
clear,
inspections.
just click clarification. We didn't pay them. We just unfroze their assets. So we actually didn't give them like U.S. taxpayer dollars, right? We just gave them like control over the assets they already had frozen. But you go ahead, Darren.
Well, basically, even when we pulled out, they still adhered to the agreement for some time before, eventually stopping. I think in hopes that we would get back to our senses. All that to say, I think Iran is a completely reasonable actor, and they've shown enormous restraint during this whole current conflict between Israel and Gaza and them. Only after strikes within Iran did they strike Israel, and they've been provoked. They'd been provoked for some time. So
I don't think that's true. Is it the first drone strike that they sent into Israel? There had been no in Iran's border strikes by Israel. They had just been bombing Hezbollah and
No, no, no.
Hamas.
They've had strikes inside of Iran.
They've had strikes now, but when the first strike that Israel or that Iran sent into Israel, that was not prompted by Israel firing into Iran. That was prompted by their war against Hamas and
No, no,
Hezbollah.
they kill an Iranian general? Isn't that not what prompted it?
They killed an Iranian general in Hezbollah. Like he was in the same. It was in Damascus, I think.
but wasn't
But
it in the
that's still not an attack in Iranian soil. That's like, hey, why the hell is your bureaucrat here with terrorists?
So
If
if
you
but
keep
they,
wasn't
saying
it
that
the
you're not the one
Iranian
funding them.
embassy that was bombed and therefore it was Iranian soil? So if somebody like bombed an American embassy and like killed a high-ranking official, you would
Okay,
agree we would have the right to bomb them.
right. So yeah, and technically that would be. I mean, that would be Iranian soil. Is that what happened? Was it an Iranian embassy that they bombed?
I believe that was what preceded it, but
it
I
is, yes.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to you on a technicality, but like not Iran proper. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I,
Um,
I just think that that's BS. If they killed an American general, let's say in, Ukraine, right? It wouldn't bother us to be like, you killed an American general. Do you think that the country that did that would get to say, well, he wasn't on American soil? I think that's BS, and I think you know it.
but the thing is, like, so again, he was there with Hezbollah.
Hell, he was
Like,
probably the target, Garrett. Like what do you mean?
I mean, Iran is funding Hezbollah. Like, it's pretty well established. I right now, so just to kind of pull it back, I don't think war with Iran right now is the answer. Uh, I don't agree with Trump going back to this. Like, I don't know if he's actually paying them now or whatever the deal is that was on the table for Iran to not enrich uranium beyond like 3%. Uh, but it's basically the same deal that Obama gave them. And I'm really not on board with that. Like, to me, it is no, you're not going to develop a nuclear bomb. And if I find out you're trying to, or you continue to try to enrich this uranium, we're going to have a bigger problem.
Well, would you rather
And
have that, or would you rather have war with Iran?
I mean, does that mean war with Iran, or does Iran back down? Does Iran want war with the United States? Like, I mean, so
I
it
don't
wouldn't
think
even.
they do.
I think
But
I
I
think
think
Israel wants war between the
Well,
United
so
States and Iran. But
I
go ahead,
agree.
that's
Darren.
Well, I was just gonna say that, I don't think Iran wants war, but Trump's style is so beyond aggressive, and uh, he does this brinksmanship thing where he, puts, he's putting all these like B-2 bombers in that island in the Indian Ocean, and he's making these obvious threats to Iran, and I just don't think threatening them is the way to go. I think they've shown themselves to be more receptive to a mutual respect kind of thing. And brinksmanship has worked in other cases, so I'm not totally against it, but they don't seem to be too receptive to it. I'm just all that to say, I think if Trump would just calm down the rhetoric a little, there could be a lot of progress made, and I think the Iranians would be surprisingly receptive. I don't think they want a war at all.
I just disagree. I think that a strong arm in the Middle East is what we need um, against Iran. Like I said, a firm line in the sand that you will not enrich uranium. Not because we're giving you money, not because we're. Frankly, I don't know the context of releasing their funds. Maybe there might be an argument I haven't heard that they need to have those funds released regardless. But my point with the nuclear weapon is no, you are not going to enrich uranium beyond this percentage. And if I find out you are, there are going to be consequences. And that's all I would say to him. And like I'm fine with the B-2 bombers. I'm fine. Honestly, we need a bigger presence in Eurasia. Well, specifically Asia. And I guess that's Asia Minor. Would Iran be in Asia Minor?
No, that's the Middle East.
Okay. Well,
Asia Minor's
anyway.
like Turkey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I'm confused. But no, I'm fine with having a stronger presence, and I'm fine with strong arming them and saying no, we're not going to allow this. And if they don't want war, then they'll stop. And if they don't actually want a nuclear weapon, then there's no reason for them to risk it. And that's going to be my policy with like moving. If y'all are okay moving on to Ukraine and
Sure.
Russia,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, we can go on.
uh, that's going to carry over to Ukraine and Russia. Like I think so. One, Trump totally botched the beginning of these negotiations, like just embarrassingly bad, frankly. Um, to come on and
Agreed.
say that Ukraine was the start of this, and like I get like in some 4D chess, maybe in a world full of people smarter than me, you could say, well, the fact that Ukraine even exists is a threat to Russia, and the Russians certainly seem to think so. That baffles my mind that you're going to blame Ukraine for this conflict, and to insist that Ukraine is the one preventing peace, especially now, which he has changed his rhetoric a little bit, um, since really the snafu with oh whatever the hell his name is, in the like, where JD Vance and him go at it for a while,
Zelensky.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
Zelensky.
there you go. Um, and he's just, I mean, he's totally just botched this Ukraine Russia fiasco. And I think to me, it's the same strategy that I want to see upheld there is you're going to tell Russia, like okay, we've tried offering, we've tried getting you to the table, and we don't know what actual terms. So I think Trump met with Russian diplomats first, in Saudi Arabia at some point, but we don't know the actual terms that they were negotiating. And then he just went super hard at Zelensky and was like, "Hey, you're going to do all of this, and you're just basically going to take whatever deal we can get the Russians to give you." And to me, that's just ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'm not even saying I like his mineral deal with Ukraine. I I think just the way he handled it and putting the blame on Ukraine, which I don't think Zelensky is a saint. I also don't like if in a battle between two evils, he is not the same evil as Vladimir Putin. And you've got to get that through your head. Like if we have to pick a devil in this war, I would pick Zelensky from what I know every day of the week.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm in total agreement with you
Yeah.
on this one. I'm pro Ukraine, and whatever relatively minor corruption might be happening in the Ukrainian government. I think it's nowhere near as big of a problem as Putin's aggression. So yeah, I don't think I differ with you much at all on this.
Yeah, yeah, I pretty much agree. I
and
mean,
look,
I wouldn't escalate to war with Russia, given they're a nuclear power, but I feel like
yeah, so
not caving here. I feel like for pragmatic reasons, we have to support Ukraine, like just because of the whole denuclearization effort and everything. So
right. I mean, so yeah, but aside from the deal we actually made them, um, I like I said, I would like to see basically the same response I'm advocating for against Iran, which would be like I'm going to stop sending like Tomahawk missiles and whatever kind of munitions we're sending to Ukraine. I'm going to start training their pilots on F-16s. Okay, and they're going to start getting F-16s, maybe from Poland, maybe from someone else in NATO who's already bought them from us. But they're going to start, and we're going to start allowing attacks into Russian proper. If you don't come to this table and get the shit figured out, because what we're not going to have is you to continue to march all the way to Kiev, because that would be a defeat that one I just don't think Trump wants on his plate, and it would be the biggest defeat the West has sustained in since Vietnam.
See,
And I
I
just
like this when it's applied to Russia. I don't agree with applying this stance to Iran, but I'm in total agreement. I think we should be more hawkish on Russia. You know, I think if these NATO member states would commit more money and maybe ramp up some domestic industry and do some training and maybe even start amassing troops on the on neighboring states to Russia, we could probably put some real pressure on Putin, and I wouldn't mind seeing Putin being eliminated or ousted or whatever. I would love to see another Russian collapse. So I'm in total agreement.
Yeah,
Wyatt, you
yeah, I
got
think
anything?
so. No, 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 yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, I agree more with Darren about only applying this to Russia, obviously. But um, do you have any more foreign policy ones? If not, I have a question foreign policy wise. It's kind of like trade economics, though.
Oh boy. Yeah, like I said, that's pretty much it. Like my whole foreign policy stance is like I want American force. Like I'm tired of the carrot. We seem to be giving the carrot to everyone except our allies. It is time for the stick.
Interesting. All right. So I guess my next question is, what do you feel about like his stance really on like China and then what cuz it's easy to I mean he's kind of the guy that's like supposed to be tough on China, right? But if you remember, I mean Hong Kong got taken over when he was president. They grew at a faster rate of GDP than we did, more onshoring jobs into China. So like what do you think he should do differently this go around to China? And then
Um,
after that, I have your stance on the tariffs. So, but go ahead.
okay. Well, it's probably going to get wrapped into this answer. So first off, Hong Kong, I rescind my earlier statement about Vietnam. Hong Kong would be the most recent loss of Western civilization. I think the way that was handled by the US and Western allies was disgraceful, specifically Britain. Um, it's honestly turns my stomach to think about it. Like when you got people in the streets of Hong Kong waving American flags and getting steamrolled, like it bothers me a lot. Um, as far as what I would do differently, this go around, I'm kind of caught between two ideologies. So again, like this strong arm, like let's put freaking B-2 bombers in the middle in the Philippines. Let's start, selling our fifth gen fighters to Australia at a discount because if anyone's going to go after China before us, it's the Aussies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Forcing them out of our hemisphere under the Monroe Doctrine. So I agree with what's going on in Panama. I like it. Uh,
I agree with that. They don't have any business being in Panama.
right. And that's it's another thing too. Like, this is going to be a little bit off topic, but I guess there's like a huge number of the illegal immigrants coming across the southern border under Biden were Chinese immigrants too. There's some conspiracy stuff we won't get into, but it's pretty nutty. Um,
I wouldn't be too worried about those Chinese immigrants. I'd be more worried about the legal immigrants that are sleeping with Democratic intelligence officers.
that too.
I
That's a problem. Um, Gah. And the intellectual theft in general, like the espionage and intellectual theft is a huge problem. But again, you can't say like you can't hire Chinese migrants in specific industries because I don't know, they're Asian. People probably wouldn't call you racist. I don't know.
Yeah,
People,
yeah. I feel like they're less protected in that regard than other minorities.
yeah. Uh, Gosh, so what I would like to see different is kind of where I'm hung up on.
Well, then here, how about
I
these tariffs? Like I mean, that seems to be his weapon of choice, right?
Yeah,
Because it's really the only thing he can do without the approval of Congress, right? So,
right. Well, I mean, so he could dispatch U.S. assets to the South China Sea, which I think he's done. I think we have one of our big carriers is now patrolling there.
yeah,
Um,
but that's
it's
nothing. I mean, he's not gonna get into like an armed conflict with a nuclear power like that. I mean, that's just I don't know. I'm less concerned about that. That to me is almost equivalent to nothing.
so I am more cautious about using the strong arm technique against China. And the reason I say that is because I think in even a 2v1, I think the US take and allied nations take Iran and Russia with zero to no problem, barring the use of nuclear force. Um, China is a different beast because they have secured, since I think it was Ronald Reagan that opened them up to the world economy. They have secured such a prevalent place in world economics that it's hard to imagine a world where you have totally won a war against China and everybody's not a loser. You know? Now these
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing. What were you about to say?
These tariffs, I think economic warfare is definitely preferable. Um,
When you say
and I
preferable,
just think they will.
when you say preferable, is physical war an option for you that you would even remotely entertain?
Yeah, physical war is always an option, dude. All options are on the table.
With a nuclear power.
Yeah, I mean, so nobody wants to hit that button, and if they
With a
do
hold
hit the
on, with
button,
a
then it's mutual.
nuclear fucking power.
I'm not scared of going to war with Russia. Why would I be scared of going to war with China? The stakes are basically the same. If they launch a nuke, then the whole planet's getting the shaft. Like nobody, again,
All the
nobody
more
wins.
reason it should be off the table because of the potential downside, right?
Nah, I don't, I don't know. So,
What do you mean you don't know?
well, so
Understand what I'm saying?
hang on. So, is American and Western hegemony worth risking all of it for? And my gut tells me yes. And that's really what's at stake here. Between Russia, Iran, and China, what's at risk is Western global hegemony. We've already basically lost Europe to the Islamic invasion for the third time in history. All of our allies are now looking to cut deals with China specifically because your tariff plan was rolled out so hysterically bad. And to make it even worse, and this to me this really is the worst part of it. You you back down almost immediately. Like, so sure, you got like 70 nations or whatever, and the EU coming to say, okay, look, let's go to zero tariffs, let's go to zero tariffs. But one, you didn't accept those deals when they were offered to you. Like if it were me and I said, hey, I'm matching tariff for tariff, we're gonna do this, and then they came back and said, okay, well, we want to go to zero. All right, let's go to zero. We'll count it as a win, free trade for everybody. Yay. And then I would have slapped 125% is not high enough on China. I would have slapped them with the most egregious level of tariffs that I could possibly sustain, um, and I would have stuck to it. Like I'm not poking holes in it for rare earth minerals. I'm not poking holes in it for all this crap. I'm not poking holes in it for Apple. I'm not poking holes in it for anybody. Like you get a 400% tariff from now until freaking doomsday, and everybody else we're going to be at zero tariffs. That's really, and
Right,
what
but
he's
that's
got now
not
is
what
just
he's doing, right? Right?
no, that's not what he's doing. He has chosen the hell of half measures. So on one side you have the status quo, which was not, super ideal, but it's the status quo. It's what everybody knows. On the other side is actually trying to resolve the problem. And what you've done is gone halfway in between them, and now you just have a hellscape. And for no reason, for no meaningful gain, for no it is a utter waste of freaking time, and it infuriates me because I really think that the tariffs specifically on China and getting everyone else to zero tariffs also, but specifically on China would have started moving the ball. Like they are an export economy, they're a manufacturing economy, whether or not that's high tech or low tech, whatever. They depend on their ability to export. And if we start tariffing them and then got all these other allies, specifically like, the EU or, some of our Middle Eastern allies, we could probably even get India on board because India hates China and just get everybody to tariff the crap out of them. And it's like, we're going to tariff you back to the Stone Age. And obviously, China's not going to take that laying down. But that's the nature of things. But like I said, instead we have got this egregious monster of crappy ideas from both extremes, and it infuriates me so much.
Yeah, no disagreements there. I think it's been a total disaster what Trump has done, and I am sympathetic to, or I do like the idea of isolating China, and even becoming less reliant on their cheap goods. They make so much for us. It's just it's not sustainable if we ever just decide to go to war with them, and which I think that it's a very possible thing that we do go to war with China somewhere in the near, relative near future. They're building all this dual use infrastructure. They're building up their shipbuilding capacity. They're building up so that they can project power across the world in the same way we do. So they're a true rival in every sense. So I'd love to, see their economy crippled, and I'd like to send them back to, you know, where they were before, so much Western investment. I would love that. Uh,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's one of the fewer areas I think that, and we won't spend too much time on the previous administration, but I think they handled China policy extremely well. I mean, if you look at a graph of U.S. investment in manufacturing and U.S. manufacturing jobs, there's like a sharp spike in 2021 through now, and it's because of things like the CHIPS Act, the Science Act, all the stuff with the UAW, like Ford and GMC, like they're making more cars here, and then basically all of that got undone in a matter of less than 100 days. It is what it is, and he wants to undo all that because Biden did it, you know.
Mm.
Um,
well,
but
speaking of,
rather
well,
than just stamp your fucking name on it and count it as your win, which is what a smart politician would do, right? So like every chip that was passed by the Biden administration, he just throw a big old Trump sticker on it and bam, now it's a win. But instead, he's like, nope, let's just get rid of it.
That that for sure does baffle me. So I think you'd mentioned it before, Wyatt, but the trying to get rid of the Chips Act is the exact opposite of what you need to do. Like if we're going to economic war with China and we're getting all of these critical military components from them, we need to be able to do more of that at home. Because at some point, China's economy is going to be so crippled that they have no choice to either expand or die, and nobody goes quietly into that good night. Um, hopefully, at that point, we've limited their expansive capability so much that it's not too much of a fight. But I'm not. I'd really rather not roll those dice, and I would rather have the ability to do all these things that we're currently doing in China, either in house or in some other allied nation. Um, and really, the only downside to that is cost is going to go up, but that's going to happen when you tariff China anyway. And honestly, like the world gets to be a greener place. So if you're a global warming guy or something, getting all of these industries out of China where they just freaking strip mine and pollute and all this other crap because they have no regulation on it, that's a win for you too. I'm just saying.
oh yeah, I think China is maybe one of the bigger evils in the world right now. But we're all kind of we're all basically in agreement on everything regarding China. It seems so. Before we let you go, Garrett, because I know we probably have about 15 minutes left with you. I was wondering now that we're almost 100 days into the Trump presidency. How much better do you think it is that he won, as opposed to if Kamala won? So, are you still like 100% definitive? Like, it's much better that Trump won rather than Kamala, or do you have more mixed feelings about it now? Where are you?
I'm still 100% that it's better that Trump won over Kamala. He's done a lot to disappoint me. He's done a lot that I don't know where his head is at, frankly. But I have no doubt this is better than a Kamala Harris presidency. Um, it's just from what I know about her and the policies she advocated for. I just don't. On top of that, so and I'm not gonna say I would never vote for a woman president. The odds are very unlikely. But like I think especially the first woman president and especially someone like Kamala Harris, they're going to come in with this big chip on their shoulder and that the world is against and it's just going to be a victim mentality in the White House and I could not stand that, frankly. Um
I almost made a
but
joke,
yeah,
like a funny voice, where it's like, well, damn it, Darren, don't you know that she was a woman? Garrett can't vote for that, but he literally made it for me.
yeah, you're pro-abortion and you're a woman. I don't think I can get behind it. Um
Well, I will say, in terms, I certainly have mixed feelings regarding which one I would have liked more. Although I will say, lately I've been more sympathetic to the idea of a Kamala presidency. But I will say one of the uh, my two big things that I do like about the Trump presidency, which I'm sure you'll agree with, is like you were talking about before with the tighter control of the border, and also the second thing is the cultural shift that I think happened because he won. Things had been shifting, and I think that led to his win. But I think his victory kind of cemented the cultural shift in place, and things have opened up more so free speech wise, especially on the social media platform. So that was a big thing that I like. However, I like these two things, but every day I'm unsure if it was worth it for for him to win. Especially if these tariffs have some long-term bad effects. We'll see. We'll see. Nothing too crazy has happened yet, but uh,
well,
that that could be on the in the horizon.
it definitely could be. God willing not. On the culture war stuff, I'd agree with you. Like I think there was a slow but steady push away from leftism and wokeism as we moved really from 2016 Trump to 2024, which everything moves so fast nowadays. But I am also a firm believer that the culture war is where the actual war is. The
Yeah,
battle of ideas.
way to pick a champion for your side, by the way.
I picked the lesser of two evils, man. I voted for DeSantis in the primary. No, he wasn't even on the primary ticket by the time he got to Oklahoma. I supported DeSantis in the primaries, even after his totally screwed up opening. Thanks, Elon Musk. Um, but I think the culture war is where the fight is at. And I am happy to see that trend shifting. The political winds always shift. I think it's really, really important that Trump have a good presidency, a productive presidency, and especially on the economic front. I am petrified. Petrified is the right word. I am very, very concerned that his economic and foreign policies are going to exacerbate the struggles of everyday Americans to the point where all the progress he makes just gets totally undone as soon as he leaves office.
What
And
progress has he made?
so as far as the cultural war stuff, so like we're acknowledging men and women
No,
now.
no, no,
We're
no, 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 no. What economic progress has he made?
also economic progress. Yeah, I don't think he's made. I mean, hardly any. I haven't seen the jobs numbers from the second quarter or the third quarter. And the Doge cuts, like apparently none of them are making it into the one big beautiful bill, which is ridiculous. Um, yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of economic wins. Inflation is down, but it's not down any more than it was under the last few quarters under Biden. And frankly, what the American people want is deflation, and we can get into a big intellectual argument about why deflation is technically bad or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Fact is, wages are not high enough for the inflation rates to have been what they were for the past 5, 6 years. And American people are struggling. And if they continue to struggle after they voted you in, hoping you would relieve some of that burden, they're they're fickle people, man. Like those independent voters, if you don't produce results, they will switch sides on you. And the nature of politics is they will switch sides on your entire party. So, I,
Yeah, yeah, I would echo that sentiment that I think, all this goodwill that was built up in the years before the election and then, culminating in his victory, it might all get lost pretty quick if all these blunders continue. I mean, especially when people start to feel it in their pocketbook, it'll be really bad for anyone who wants to see America become more conservative long term. I think, yeah, like you were saying, all this cultural progress will be totally rolled back in 2028 or even in 2026 if this kind of crap continues.
So
yeah,
when you guys say cultural progress, what are you guys referring to? Because if you're the only real issue I could see you guys winning on that like I'm thinking of would be like maybe like the trans stuff. But like gay marriage is as popular as ever, abortions is as popular as ever. I mean maybe like race relations, like BLM stuff is not as popular as it used to be, but I mean clearly that's not true. Our last podcast we talked about it a little bit, Darren, but like people still pretty much say it. So like what do you guys talk? It's not like people are becoming more Christian, right? It's not like like what are you guys referring to when you say cultural progress?
Well, I will concede that things are still very liberal as it currently stands, but I would say that it no longer feels like liberals have the mandate, and it doesn't feel so overpowering anymore. The two forces seem roughly equal in cultural strength, left and right.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. So like it got to really after Trump's defeat in 2020, it was really feeling like, man, we kind of lost. Like this is the direction it's going. There's no going back. And then, I mean, Biden botched it, at least in the mind of a lot of people. And there was a shift backward, or not a shift backward, a shift towards conservatism again. And these conservative ideas like free speech, like when men are men and women are women, and they shouldn't be fist fighting each other. Men can get pregnant. Like all of these ideas that have been mainstream in conservative ideology seem to be taking ground. And it's really nice. And I would agree though. I think the becoming more Christian, which would be my highest priority, that ship has sailed. I'm afraid that there's not going to be a resurgence or a revival at any time. And at this point, it really is for me voting for the lesser of two evils.
Right, and it's pretty simple, right? As long as like the lesser of two evils is the not Democrat, right?
So for the most part, I mean, so it's not conservatives coming on and saying that, men can get pregnant and chest feeding is a thing and you have to put a litter box in your public school bathroom. Like,
It's only conservatives talking about that. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
Um, you show me
I
the
couldn't.
Garrett. You show me the Democrat politician that is arguing for kids in schools to shit in litter boxes. I'll give you $1,000 cash.
So it doesn't even have to be the politician, but this stuff is getting done, right?
Well, that is
Like
who
this
we're
stuff is
voting for,
happening.
right? That is who we're. I don't know. That is who we're voting for, right?
I
I'm
well,
not
so
sure about this pooping in litter boxes. I've heard about this from a lot of different people that,
Well, the story ended up being
I
fake. It's not a true
yeah,
story, but it's one of it doesn't matter if it's true because you go on Joe Rogan's and you talk about it for 4 hours and suddenly it doesn't even matter if it's real or not. You
well,
know?
so it 100% matters if it's real or not. But I'm just saying, like, so are you sure it's fake? I thought it was one out of our home state. Like, I'm not
No,
going to
no,
say
it's
the state.
completely fake. No.
I'm fairly certain it was a fake story or at least exaggerated.
Like no kid shit in a class. I can't believe I have to say this. No kid shit in a litter box in an Oklahoma school. That the whole thing was fabricated. The kid like brought a litter box to school, and that was like a joke for like a furry or something. Like it wasn't like
But so you understand that my point though is that like 10 years ago that wouldn't have even fucking happened. Like, like this is how far left we've come, is that this stuff does happen,
right and
right? Like
and
someone brings a litter box and says, I'm gonna go crap in it, thinking that nobody can tell them no.
right. And you think that voting for president that's what's going to solve this, huh?
No. The culture war is
Voting in a pure hedonist like Trump, like that's what's going to solve this issue. Damn it,
no,
you know.
I mean, so no, I don't think voting. That's why I agreed with Darren that the culture war is where the war is. Like I think that's the most important front we can be fighting on, and that means talking to your liberal friends, as asinine as it may be, and trying to convince them of like basic facts,
See,
and basic truths.
I would have started like if I'm going to vote for a politician, I would have probably started at policy execution. Now that would have been my, you know
Well,
what I
so
mean?
we have gotten some policy execution. So the federal government now only acknowledges two genders, right? We've started removing funding from schools that support men and women's sports.
What did
Like
that even solve? Right? Like what does that solve at all?
the
Like
culture war is a slow burn, and it's very approved of. So like
I
men and
can't
women's
believe we're
sports is
having
like an
this
80-20
conversation.
issue.
I don't know. I mean, listen, Americans seem to care about that for some reason, but like it's one of those things that makes no sense to me. Like if you're worried about like that type of stuff and you're like we need the president to solve this, like I think we have I mean our we're on borrowed time as a
Well, so
as a
I,
society.
I, yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, so like in a
That's the
long time
entire
ago,
premise of your vote though, you said.
so
That's what I don't
the premise of
understand.
my vote for president is policies that I broadly support. Like, or at least I thought he would enact policies that I broadly support. As this whole podcast has been how I'm freaking disappointed in him. Um, but no, I 100% think the actual battle is going to be in the culture. It is not going to be an elected president, especially one who's in his second term and it's his last term. I just the culture war is actually talking to people about ideas. And I guess to some extent, local and state matter way more than president. Not to some extent, to a great extent.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're interested in like changing the culture of America, I feel like that starts on like social media with like influencers nowadays. I think the president. I mean, have you ever met a person who said, like I was this like pure hedonist who just gave into everything, but then like Trump got elected, and now I'm running the right track. I quit
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Like the person doesn't fucking exist, right? But they might watch a couple of Jordan Peterson reels on Instagram, and they may, who knows, right?
yeah. I mean, 100%. No disagreement here. Like I said, no one's changing their lifestyle because of Trump, unless honestly, regardless, no one's changing how they behave or how they act because a president got elected.
Interesting then. Okay, so like I guess then knowing that, right? What would make you either regret your vote for Trump or consider voting for somebody else or abstaining?
I mean, so I was pretty close to abstaining in this election. Just like hands up, God, you're in control, man, because I ain't got a clue. What would make me consider abstain? I mean, so just two totally crap candidates. Well, I can't really even say that. We had two totally crap candidates like the past two, three elections. I tell you what, a Democrat come out and say hey, I'm pro-life. We shouldn't do abortions. Like I'd probably have to switch sides.
Well, I mean, Trump said he was pro-choice, right? I mean, he said, hey, 6 weeks is not
Yeah.
enough time, right? So like clearly that's not a deal breaker for you, right? I mean,
No, it's just because like on one side it's 6 weeks is not enough time, and one side is like 2 seconds after birth you could probably still kill it. Like again, I'm choosing the lesser of two evils here. Like there is no like I'm not a gold statue Trumper where I pray to him every night. I'm not an idolater. It's just I'm choosing the lesser of two evils.
Right, we just
And
enable the idolatry.
I mean, so if I would make an argument that either way you're enabling idolatry.
Really?
So yeah.
Is there idolatry to Kamala Harris that's even remotely similar? Even
Uh,
remotely
so
similar?
it's like no one's building gold idols of Kamala Harris, to my knowledge. But there are some like leftist practices that I really do think are idolatry. Like abortion being one of them. I think it's a act of self-worship. That'll be a topic for a different day, maybe. But yeah, it to me, choosing presidents at this point is choosing the lesser of two evils. And frankly, for all time, like none of us are perfect. No one is good but God. So it's always choosing the lesser of two evils.
Interesting. But I mean, knowing that, you're saying that the Republican side is always the side that's the lesser of two evils? That's what I don't understand. Like if they both suck, right? I mean, why wouldn't you just go coin flip each election, right? They both suck, right?
Well, if I may interject,
Go
it
ahead. Go ahead.
seems like the the big hang up issue with Garrett is abortion, which is like the and I find that honestly very understandable, especially if you consider, life. If you believe life begins at conception, then I would imagine that that would probably be one of the most prescient issues in every election. And only, even though, Trump himself is not some champion for the pro life cause, he is, uh, well, like Garrett said, the lesser of two evils, if that is what you care about.
Well, I guess all I'm saying is that it's not a deal breaker, right? Because we had two pro-choice candidates, right, this election. So,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
but
you know what I mean?
basically they are both pro-choice to slightly different degrees.
I guess so. What would it take to make me abstain? Like there, I don't think anything could make me abstain. I'm probably always going to vote for who I think is the lesser of two evils. Just because if I was going to abstain, it would have been in this last election, and I didn't do it. It's a
Well,
struggle between like practicality and idealism. So ideally, like Mike Pence would have been my ideal candidate, and America's just not going to elect Mike Pence. Slow incremental steps forward is what I'm voting for. So incremental steps towards, I mean, towards righteousness is what I would say. And that's going to take ideology from both sides too. So like the Democrats aren't all evil. Like so, I think Democrats. I was actually thinking about this earlier, but Democrats kind of have like they've romanticized what the future could be, while conservatives are romanticizing what the past was. And there are good things that Democrats want to do and that are they're concerned about. And there are good things that the Republicans are concerned about. And then both of them just have total crap shoved in there too. And I, for the most part, am going to just side with whichever one has what I think is less crap.
But it just happens to always be Republican.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, fair.
for the past 10 years at least.
well, I think that tracks, especially if, Mike Pence is your ideal candidate, then, I mean, only one side is going to play to that base. It's certainly not. So I think that's fair.
No, I'd agree. I mean, listen, like uh, Democratic politicians, they may show up to church more often, right? But like the movement as a whole is definitely a Republican movement, right? Like, I mean, me and Darren have talked about it before. Like, generally, like Republican politicians are fucking crazy, and like they do wild, crazy shit, right? Like like Matt Gaetz or whatever. Like the days of Mike Pence are almost behind you guys. Like that's almost
No,
in the rearview mirror.
the days
Um,
of Mike Pence have been behind us for
since you elected Trump.
really since probably even before that. But yeah, I'm not going to argue.
But I mean, I would agree. Like the movement as a whole is probably still. I mean, that's still a Republican coalition, But they just kind of have to stomach the fact that, like, all right, we're not the principled few that we used to be. We're kind of going to sacrifice a little bit of ideology here to have like political power, which is fair. Like, I mean, everyone pretty much makes that assumption or that deal nowadays.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it doesn't make it good. It just makes it a reality.
Yeah, couple of things I wanted to ask you before you head up here. I know we've stolen a lot of your time, but how competent would you say this administration is?
Oh God. Um, I'm gonna so on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving it like a solid 4 right now. Like
Oh,
I'm
that's fair.
I'm not convinced me and a group of drinking buddies couldn't do better on some of the stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean between Musk, Hegseth, Navarro, and RFK, I mean this is just I was completely shocked. But I mean, we've mentioned it on this podcast a couple of times. We have gotten some funny moments out of this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so we're gonna laugh our way down to the abyss, as Andrew Clavin likes to say. So
Ugh. Darren, you have any last couple of questions or
Nothing comes to mind. The last one I asked, I think we were able to get a lot of a good out of it. I went into this podcast assuming that you were more of a hardcore Trumpist than you are. But broadly, I think with some exceptions regarding foreign policy in the Middle East. I think broadly we're in agreement, Garrett. I actually abstained from voting for either candidate this time around, and I will say I think if I were to have voted, I actually I can't quite remember at the time who I was leaning on. I just felt that neither really basically earned the vote, and I didn't want to really feel culpable or responsible for any of it. So I abstained. But yeah, bro, I'm surprised. Basically, I'm just kind of surprised that we ended up agreeing on quite a bit with except I guess Iran and stuff.
yeah, I mean, so like I said, I kind of take issue with being like a MAGA Republican just because like so that when I hear MAGA Republican, I'm hearing like a guy who thinks Trump can do no wrong, like all but has a golden statue of him. And I'm not that guy. I'm willing to cut Trump the benefit of the doubt, especially early on in his administration. So like tariffs, I was like, hey, let's hear him out. Let's see if it works. Let's see what comes of it. Right. So and that's still my position for a lot of stuff. Part of what's made it difficult is his whole administration's moved so fast on so many fronts that it's almost hard. It is just hard to kind of keep track of all the different balls in the air and finding the misses and hits. Um, but for the most part, and I still stand by this. Like I would give Trump the benefit of the doubt. So if he comes out and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to try this foreign policy approach with Russia," I'd be like, "Okay, well maybe I don't like maybe that's not what I would do, but let's see how it works." And if it works like total crap, I'm going to tell you, "Wow, that worked like total crap." Like your tariff administration. Like I was fully on like, "Hey, maybe we could get rid of the income tax. Hey, maybe this could be really good for America. Hey, and then a couple weeks down the road, it's been a total shit show. And I'm like, hey, you like, if there was ever a hope, you really screwed this up. like, I
Yeah, I think I'm perhaps a little less inclined to give the benefit of the doubt, but I think that's all pretty reasonable. Wyatt, do you have any
yeah, I
closing
mean,
remarks?
yeah, I mean, I mean, this will be a shock to the audience, but like I knew pretty well coming into this administration, we're gonna get a couple of gaffes, just pure like I mean, Signalgate is crazy. Um, that whole thing. I don't know if you guys know this. So Peter Navarro, right, the director of like trade and manufacturing, he's like Trump's economic guy. He's one of the guys doctoring this tariff war guy, and he's citing this well-known economist in air quotes named Ron Vara. And it turns out, after some investigating, that this guy, Ron Vara, is just an anagram for Navarro. He's citing him fucking self,
that's
right?
hilarious.
And when he got caught, he tried to act like it was a running joke, and everyone's like, "Uh-huh, yeah, you were joking in these official press releases, these memos sent to China and Japan and the EU. Yeah, bullshit." Like he got caught and he didn't it's hilarious. But those are just some of the few things where it's like, this administration is definitely not the best of us. Not even it's not even the best of your side of things, to be completely honest. And I
Yeah,
think that's the problem. I'm already looking forward to 2028 or 2026, the midterms, because I am very curious as an observer how the country responds to this. That's what I'm curious about.
yeah. And it really is going to depend on really like what the next 12 months. Like, can Trump start getting results? And I mean, like, actual results, not coming out and saying, "Oh, I got this, I got that." Like, you have to have measurable results for the American people, or the hand that fed you will turn around and smack you.
Yeah.
Like, I
Well, and totally forgot about this, and I apologize, but I'm going to steal another 10 minutes from you. Um, the upcoming budget battle. That's probably going to be his biggest legislative accomplishment before the midterms, right? What do you want to see out of there? Do you want to see continued tax cuts? Do you want to see bigger tax cuts? Do you want to see cut to spending? I'm not trying to like put words in your mouth. Like it's open ended. Like what do you want to see out of this? And then Darren, you're free to answer this as well because we don't know.
uh well, so for me, I would like to see some of the Doge cuts actually legislated in the budget. I'd like to see all of them, frankly. Um, After prudent review. So I've been on the Doge website. It's as comprehensive as I think they can be, without going into super detail. And again, I don't have 8 hours a day to devote to this, but I would like to see meaningful cuts to budgetary spending. I would like to see the Trump tax cuts actually passed and in there and in continuation. I would like to see no tax on tips. I'd like to see no taxes on overtime, which is, I think, a far bigger ask at
Be a
this point.
huge win for him, I think too. Huge win.
I think I think so too. What else? So they've been kind of pitter pattering this idea of a $5,000 tax credit for mothers. I think that's a great idea. Um, and those would probably be the big ones. Like I want to see budgetary cuts in spending. I want to see a cut to just the federal body politic, or not the body politic, the body enforcement, I guess. So I want to see efficiency increased and cost decrease.
For for me, what I want to see and what like with it, what I reasonably can hope for, I want, more ICE funding. But beyond that, a lot of what's being put out there as possible things under consideration, Garrett mentioned the tax cuts. I'm not in favor of that. If anything, I think there should be tax increases. Uh, so I'm just opposed to that generally. I'm opposed to this $5,000 tax credit for mothers. I don't know if it's like per child. I think it's a per child thing. My sense is that this is not going to stimulate the people who we want to have kids to have kids. I think middle class people, regardless if you give them $5,000, they're gonna keep on just churning out 1.7 kids per household on average. I think the problem is deeper than money. I think it's it's a multifaceted problem, but I don't think $5,000 per kid will solve it. If anything, I think it'll incentivize honestly bad things. I think perhaps people we don't want reproducing getting more incentive to reproduce. The lowest common denominator.
Lower class
Yeah.
families will reproduce more.
Yeah, yeah, and
So just real quick, Darren, I don't disagree. My main reason for supporting it, is because like the burden of child rearing is so high. So like again, I have two kids, one on the way, and fortunately, I'm in a very affordable daycare. But I'm sure you've seen like some of the prices for daycare. I mean, hell, even just what my other family members pay in daycare is exorbitant. exorbitant, and that's ridiculous. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
in the meantime, a tax credit could help middle income families, even if it doesn't necessarily incentivize childbirth.
I will say, yeah, the daycare costs are just absurd because I've done some, I guess cursory research into it. I mean, prices, I live in the metro area, so it's pretty high. And then just having a kid in general, the hospital bills, you know, uh, you know, insurance will take off some of it, but you're still gonna it'll be, I imagine, what it probably cost you thousands per child. I mean, if you're comfortable with saying, I don't know.
Yes, yes. And my daycare is very, very affordable. I know people who pay two, three times what I pay.
Whew.
And I would say it a month. It's probably 2,100 a month. But that's for two children.
That is
I
rough.
the silence was the stake going through me and Darren's heart because it's only going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And that's why I'm saying like, hey, like, oh no, I'm sorry, 2,100 would.
no, just roughly. I mean, we're not your finance guy here. You're good.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, if
I
you're
was
off
just I
by
was thinking yeah. Anyway, and the cost of daycare is exorbitantly high. I may not pay quite that much. Um, yeah, I think my math was wrong.
Well, we're
But again,
also in
my
a low
that's
daycare,
cost
okay.
state,
I
so
mean,
it's fine.
I
yeah,
mean,
my point was my daycare is an exception, and again, I still know people who are paying two to three times what I pay in daycare for their children, and it's obscene. And I would like to see some of that burden relieved. And preferably it would be through lowering costs, but I don't see that happening. So a tax credit is, one of the top five best things, I guess.
Well,
yeah, that
especially
is
from government, from what government can do to influence.
Right.
yeah, that is a compelling case. I have mixed feelings on it. I think I do worry that it'll incentivize bad outcomes in the long term. But I mean, costs are so high that a tax credit it almost does seem just in order. Like people need it almost.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't disagree with like I could totally see an argument where it incentivizes bad behavior. Um, I just like I said, to me the burden is so great that that some help would be greatly appreciated. Not even
Okay.
necessarily for my family, but for others, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's totally reasonable. What else did we touch upon that might be in the bill? Well, that was about.
Would
That's really.
would would
Oh, what
I
were you gonna say?
I was gonna say the one thing that is on the table as of right, it's not for sure yet, but it's on the table. Would you guys support either Social Security cuts, Medicaid cuts, Medicare cuts, pretty much anything that's like entitlement programs? Would you guys stomach that or no?
Yes.
Yeah, to me, I'm more open to it. Uh, I do think that, on one hand, what we could be doing is taxing more to fund it, but I'm not totally opposed to just, making cuts in general. I mean, basically, it's like just the old people getting money at the expense of the young, and the old people already have everything. So
Right.
I'm not, in principle, I'm not totally opposed to cutting, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, these kind of entitlements in general. But I do lean. I would rather see it be funded through taxes on the rich more so than cuts. But
Fair. Fair. And then last thing, and then that's honestly it for me, and I'll just defer the floor to you guys. The Pentagon just asked for the first time ever a $1 trillion Pentagon budget yearly. Yearly. Thoughts on that? Should they cut it? Should they increase it? trillion sound right? Right now it's about 800 and some change, 800 and something billion. So, uh, thoughts on that, and then I'll forego the rest of it to you guys.
Uh, I have mixed feelings. On one hand, I do want to, reduce the spending, but on the other hand, it looks increasingly more likely that China is going to become a, military type problem in the near future. So if you're banking on that, then I would rather more money be spent on defense because, I want to counter China in any way we can. But uh, I have mixed feelings on it. Right now, with our debt being so high, I would rather we not. And I would lean more so in not increasing the military spending. But, I am at least a little open to arguments for it.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a little bit more cut and dry. Yes, increase funding. I'd also I just add to that I wanted to see that money go further. So part of what I really liked about Doge was it was going to be driving efficiency within the government. I would like to see unnecessary programs cut within the Pentagon or things that were, so the running joke is like a $10,000 toilet seat. I would like to see an end to that and the money put to better use. But I think if we're going to increase funding to anywhere, it needs to be the military. Right now, really, I've said it before to one of my liberal friends, but America really got it figured out. It's not the country with the happiest people that rules the world. It's the country with the biggest gun. And so far for the past century, we have had the biggest gun, and there are legitimate threats to that authority at this point, especially if you count everybody against just us. I'm still confident in America's capabilities, but I would be more confident if we had more capability.
Yeah, I'm definitely sympathetic to that style of argument because our relative power, relative power projection is definitely diminishing. So if we can, whatever we need to do to maintain our hegemony, I'm, pretty okay with it. But I imagine you disagree, Wyatt.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that American, power projection is diminishing. I mean, can you guys name a single country outside of nuclear powers that we couldn't just open and invade, like within like a 2 week notice?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could undoubtedly crush any,
So
like,
Iran gets lippy, right? And they start shooting at the Eisenhower, the USS Eisenhower. You mean to tell me we can't send them back to the Stone Age in a matter of 2 weeks?
I mean, so Iraq and Afghanistan held up pretty well for like a decade.
No, 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 no.
So,
No, they didn't. We don't have to occupy them. I'm talking just send them back in the Stone Age and take away their capabilities, right? I
oh,
mean,
so you mean just like glass floor,
not even,
barring
not
the
even, not even nuke them. Just bomb all of their military stuff. Yeah, like there's not a single non-nuclear power that we couldn't do that to. I'm serious, on a 2 week notice maximum. You know, like, and I'm not even saying we have to occupy and conquer. I'm just saying we have to destroy their capabilities to respond to us. And honestly, that's probably true for more nuclear powers than we think, assuming they just don't use the nukes.
So my question to that would be like, if you're going to get in a fight with a guy, do you want to be up 20 pounds or do you want to be up 50 pounds?
Yeah, what I'm telling you is we're already up 50 pounds. Um,
Okay, but would you want to be up 50 pounds or 70 pounds?
well, at the expense of like, we're gonna run $1 trillion deficit next year, minimum. Like that's best case scenario, right? With all these tariffs and like the lowering of economic activity. So like, I know you guys know how taxes are, right? So the more economic like growth you have, chances are you're gonna have an increase in revenue, right? But because of the decrease in economic activity that we've had, revenue is going to almost certainly go down. And that's despite the fact that spending is almost certainly going to go up, right? So, like, we're going to run at least $1 trillion next year. I'm not sure that it's worth it. That's my thing. Is it worth the like is I don't think so.
So it depends if you see a fight coming or not.
That's really what it is. I mean, does the Trump administration see like the need for $1 trillion? Apparently so. They asked for it, you know. So we'll see.